Hey, good morning, church, and happy Friday to you. Do you ever find yourself in a season of what feels like silence with the Lord? Or maybe a long stretch of time where you're waiting on answers to your prayers or promises that you feel that God has given to you, waiting to see them come to pass. I honestly feel like I have experienced that many times in my walk with the Lord, and I've been reminded of it again this week. I find it so encouraging, for one thing, to think about this long stretch of time that we actually have in Scripture between the Old Testament and New Testament. We see between Malachi, when the last of the minor prophets is speaking for the Lord, and then when the Gospels begin, there's this long stretch of time, hundreds of years, where there is no revelation from the Lord given to us in Scripture. It's a period of long silence. And I know when I'm experiencing these long stretches of silence, it's easy to think that God has gone away. He has, maybe abandoned us for the time, or maybe he's changed his mind, or maybe he's not going to come through on the promises he's given to us, or he's not going to answer our prayers. And those can be really discouraging times for us as believers, either for things that, we're bringing before the Lord, or maybe we're bringing on behalf of another. And they can just be really challenging times for our faith. And this morning I was reading in 2 Peter, and this is one that a portion of Scripture that encourages me in times like that. And it says in chapter 3, and this is in the Message translation. It says, don't overlook the obvious here, friends. With God, one day is as good as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. God isn't late with his promise, as some measure lateness. He's restraining himself on account of you, holding back the end because he doesn't want anyone lost. He's giving everyone space and time to change. In other words, it's a reminder that God's timetable is not anything like ours, and God is never late. He is right on time. A reminder that God's perspective on things, on our lives, on everything in the world being held together is very different from our own, and he's operating with our best intentions in mind. It even says that. It talks about his motive there. He restrains himself on account of us, holding back the end because he doesn't want anyone lost. His actions toward us are always for our own good. It's for the salvation of all, the end good of all, what's best for us. And when I think about that stretch of time between Malachi and Matthew, I think sometimes God uses that stretch of time to even help us to be open to the idea that God may come through in ways that we don't expect. He may answer our prayers in ways that we aren't anticipating at all. It might look different than what we thought it would, but in the best of ways. In the same way that people looking for the Messiah thought he was going to be quite different than how Jesus actually came to be. And Jesus, of course, being far better than anything we could have imagined, as our humble servant king who gave up his very own life to save us, to save our souls, to bring us salvation. So be encouraged today, friends. If you're walking through a season like that, trust God. Trust his intentions toward you. Trust his sovereign master plan to bring you good, to bring everyone good through your season, through your situation, to make the best out of all things, and ultimately to save our souls in the process. Trust him with his timing. Keep leaning in to his promises, leaning into his goodness, leaning into him ultimately. Have a good Friday.